Ah, the romance of traveling by rail. Remember the Southern Pacific daylight that seemed to glide up and down the West Coast for decades? Now look closely at the locomotive leading the way, doing the heavy pulling. Remember the 1976 bicentennial Freedom Train? The Freedom Train actually began here in Portland, ended here in Portland, and in between was witnessed by cheering crowds in 32 states, hailed as a dramatic symbol of how the rails helped build and settle America. It too was pulled by, we call it by name, SP-4449, and is probably one of the most famous trains known throughout the country. Or more recently, have you experienced, along with the thousands of adults and kids, the Christmas-time Holiday Express at Oaks Park? If so, you haven't forgotten that the front end of the Holiday Express is pulled once again by this same celebrity steam engine. You guessed it, the Southern Pacific 4449. It's true that its heavy pulling is shared with its historically significant sister locomotive, the vintage Spokane, Portland, and Seattle number 700. It belongs to the city of Portland also. Together, these two locomotives have made the Holiday Express one of the city's favorite Christmas-time traditions, thrilling kids and adults alike. For 53 years, Portland has been blessed with these railroad treasures from the past. The Southern Pacific 4449, which pulled the Southern Pacific daylight up and down the West Coast in the 1940s. The vintage Spokane, Portland, and Seattle number 700, that pulled the famous Empire Builder during the same period. And the Oregon Railroad and Navigation 197, which was built in time to deliver crowds from far away to Portland's Lewis and Clark World's Exposition in 1905. We're talking about history here, folks. For this, we can thank the dedicated volunteers of the Oregon Rail Heritage Foundation for preserving these steam leviathans, these kings of the rail, and allowing all of us to enjoy today what was once the golden age of railroad passenger travel. Ah, the romance of the rails. However, 2 years ago, dark clouds formed. These three steam locomotives suddenly became an endangered species. Eviction loomed from their longtime Southeast Portland roundhouse. The usually benevolent landlord had other ideas for the space and wanted them moved from their home. That was indeed the bad news.
The goal is to, somewhere here in the city of Portland, find a permanent home that is, better than this building.
I'd like to turn around and see this engine, when it can no longer run, become part of a display in a steam industries museum, a regional industries museum that talks about the history of the area and how it developed because of steam.
But now there is good news, and that is one of the reasons that we are talking trains to you today. This good news, actually partial good news, happened a few months ago when the city of Portland enabled the Oregon Rail Heritage Foundation to purchase its own property in the heart of one of the city's fastest developing entertainment zones. While these three locomotives may have escaped being banished to obscurity, they are not yet safe. A replacement facility still has to be built to preserve them for your children and grandchildren to enjoy. So, until this happens, the locomotives are still on borrowed time. Now, the question is, how to capitalize on this opportunity of continuing the illustrious history of these three classic steam locomotives in this soon-to-be exotic setting, its future new home in the middle of Portland's Central East Side OMSI district. This location is fast becoming Portland's hottest transit hub, a confluence of transportation, a crossroads where Max Light Rail, Portland Streetcar, and even the Portland Spirit moored nearby come together. Here is the new Max and dedicated pedestrian bridge across the Willamette, which will deliver its traffic right to the doorstep of OMSI and the Rail Interpretive Center. This is opportunity, folks. Here is the property as it is today. Here is what it could become. These are examples from other successful rail parks in other parts of the country. Now, let's put this in the context of economic development, revitalizing an area on the river's edge that has been marginal until OMSI chose to make this its new home. The familiar adage, build it and they will come, certainly works here. Millions of development dollars have been allocated to support this area, beginning with transportation. Consider the synergies. The Opera will expand its footprint to bring Pagliacci to the Willamette's Edge. TriMet and Portland Streetcar will anchor transit stations for easy in and out access. Portland Community College will add to its current Water Street campus. Rehabilitated warehouses, like River East Center, will continue to proliferate. And OMSI will continue to be a star attraction with its popular appeal and innovative programs. There is unlimited potential to make this one of the city's highest density attraction destinations. On top of being able to view the locomotives from various observation points and to visit the Rail History and Interpretive Center, there are other rail attractions. From time to time, some classic passenger cars will visit the site. You might have the chance to see the Art Deco Southern Pacific Observation Car, or the luxurious New York Central Private Harold Vanderbilt car, a first-hand opportunity to observe the elegance that passenger rail offered during its century of being the most popular form of short and long-distance travel. Through Oregon Rail Heritage Foundation's persistence, help from City Hall, and the public recognition that these 3 steam locomotives are city treasures, we now need to take the next big step: building the protective locomotive roundhouse. This is Phase 1. Then follows the turntable and History Museum and Interpretive Center. This will come in later stages. Today, we need to embark on the first stage, putting a roof over these 3 steam superstars. Remember, too, that this is much more than a fun attraction. It is about economic development and cultural infill. It is about enriching our community. Now for the big question. When we call all aboard, will you help us get started?